Okay, so thank you for choosing me as your guide on how to use this software. I'll be teaching you the fundamentals and basics when it comes to editing, and hopefully by the end of it, you'll be able to make some cool videos on your own. So let's follow along and open the software. And by the way, I'm going to try to spend about 10 minutes teaching you this, so it's 11:22. We'll be done by 11:32. So to begin, this is the interface that you'll be working with. You have your preview window here, your timeline, and so on. If it doesn't look like this, go ahead and go up to this View tab, go to Window Layouts, Default Layout, and we'll adjust this. So we don't need this window right here, so let's exit out of this window. And we don't need this Explorer tab, so let's exit out of that. And let's make our preview window bigger so we can see our footage better. We'll click and drag over here. And we'll click and drag our timeline to be a little bit smaller, making our preview window a little bit bigger. There. To import your footage, go ahead and click this icon right here. And we'll be working with this recent ice skating footage I captured about a week ago. And a little bit of, we'll use this song. So let's highlight what we want to be editing with. And then once you import your footage, it'll show up right here in your Project Media tab. To begin editing, just go ahead and click and drag any of your clips down here onto the timeline. And now we have our video that we can edit with. And real quick, just to show you something, it may look like the quality of this video is kind of low quality. The reason why is because when you have your preview window and you're adding all these effects, sometimes the more effects you add will slow down your preview. It doesn't actually affect how your video will be output, it just affects the preview. So sometimes when I'm adding effects, I like to preview it at a low quality just so it plays back a little bit smoother. But now we should be able to watch our video. Gonna scrub through it and see what we filmed. So in this case, the first thing you may want to do is trim your footage. So I don't want any of this stuff over here on the left side, and I probably don't want any of this over here on the right side. So to trim it, it's super easy. Just go ahead and click and drag the left edge to trim the left side. So now this is where our video will start. And to trim the right, let's see where we want it to end. We want it to end, we'll say right there. So now we'll just click and drag the right side. And now this is our full video. It starts right there and it ends right there. The next thing we can do is add some filters. So to add filters, go to your video effects tab right here, click on it, and it will give you all these different options. You have black and white, you have color correcting, you have film effects. We'll start with something simple like the color curves. And then over here, all these eyeballs are pretty much showing you before and afters of some presets that are already available. You may not have as many as I do because I created a lot of these for my other projects. But you can see all you have to do to apply any of these effects to your footage, just click and drag the effect onto your video. And now you have your effect. A cool thing you can do when you're applying all these different effects, so let's apply a few more. We'll do some film effects for fun. It may look bad, but just showing you what we can do. And we'll just stick with that. So if you want to see the before and after of what your effects are doing with your footage, you just go up here and click this icon. Before, after. And you can even do like a split screen before and after like this. Before, after, before. I like to keep it on select all. Okay. So when you apply effects to your footage, you can delete them by clicking this green icon. It'll bring up this options window. And then click this green icon with the red X to delete those effects. Another thing to keep in mind is you can adjust any of these effects very specifically to how you want your project to look. So I can adjust these curves, start with the default, drag it on there, and I can adjust them to make my video brighter. Or I can go to these color correcting options, start with the default. I can add more saturation to my video, and a lot of these effects have these slider options, so I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Just move it to the right to increase the effect, left to decrease the effect. You can add some really crazy colors with this one. But we'll just keep it there for now. One more thing I want to show you before we move on to transitions is, well, it's pretty much the same thing as transition, crossfades. So let's say you have two clips you want to crossfade between. Just drag down your other clip, and I'm just going to go ahead and trim this because I already know what looks good in this video. So something around there. I'm like trying to look at the time like, oh, I have 6 minutes left. Okay, so if you want to crossfade one clip to the other instead of having just a simple cut, what you can do is just drag the footage and have them overlap each other. And this is our crossfade right here. You can increase the length of the crossfade by doing this. And now, when we play back our footage, it should have the crossfade. Super easy. Another thing to keep in mind when it comes to adding these filters is these separate tracks over here to the side. So you have your video track and your audio track. When you apply effects to these, it affects everything within that track. So if I want all my footage to be black and white, for example, I just drag the black and white filter right here. And now all my footage within that track will be black and white. Just going to make a quick adjustment to this to make it brighter. There. Okay, so we did some editing, super simple. You can also apply some really fun transitions using the Transitions tab. You have all these options. Once again, it'll give you a preview of what you want to apply to your footage. In this case, I will do this one. So once you have your crossfade, you can apply the transition over the crossfade and it'll change everything to that transition. Another way you can do it is if you have your clips separated like this, you can choose your transition like this. That one's so bad. Yeah, we'll do that one. You can apply it over here on the left of the clip and then drag it. It all works the same, like you could do either method. But that's how you do transitions. And just like the effects, you can adjust the options of the transition. So in this case, let me get rid of this black and white so you can see better. So in this case, with this transition, I can adjust the softness of the heart, like that. 2 minutes left. Okay, I'm trying my best to go fast. Okay, music. Okay, if you want to apply, there's so many things I want to show you. Let me show you 2 more things with the video and then we'll move on to music. So with video, you can also do black fades. So you can have it fade from black to the video if you just pull the top corner of your track like this, just like a crossfade, but it's just with the one video. And now it'll have a fade to kind of give your video an intro. You can do the same thing with the end of your video to create like a faded outro. Listen, this is tough. I don't usually do these tutorials. Faded outro, there you go. Just drag and drop the top right corner to create that fade. You can do the same thing with your audio. Look at that. I'm verbally transitioning from video to audio. There we go. You can fade your audio. In this project, I wouldn't want to use the audio I captured, but you can if you're filming stuff with dialogue. That's how you do fades. Super easy. Okay, let's move on to text. Text, and then we'll move on to music. So to add text to your video, the first thing you want to do is insert a new video track, because you can't really add anything on top of your video unless you have more tracks. So to do that, right click up here or right click down here to insert new tracks. You can insert more audio tracks or more video tracks. Insert video track, and now we can add some text to our video. And then in this example, it gives you all these animation options you can apply with your text. I rarely use these, but they're there if you want. But let's start with the default, just drag and drop. Boom, we have our text. And this just edits just like Microsoft Word, so you just type whatever you want. Make it smaller, change the font. You can change the color. You can add drop shadows, change the opacity like that. And then same thing with the video, you can apply transitions or fades with your text, just like that. Or make it really fancy. Let's see what's a fancy one. I guess the blinds are pretty fancy. Yep, there it is. Okay, there, that's how you apply text to your footage. There's so many cool tricks I want to show you. If you can just bear with me for another few minutes, I'm going to show you some really important stuff that you will definitely want to use in your projects. One more thing I said one more thing so many times already. One more thing with the video. So if you want to crop your footage, just go ahead and click this icon, this crop icon right here of the video track that you want to crop. It'll bring up this window. This window you may see very often once you get used to it and apply it to a lot of your projects. So to crop your footage, just click and drag like this. You can see it happening already. You can adjust the position of the crop like this. And you can always adjust things as the video is playing if you want. And then if you mess up for some things, you can always click this and go back to default. And I'm sure you know this trick. If you mess up on edits that you're doing and you want to undo it, you can either click the arrow up here, the undo arrow, or it tells you Control Z is the undo option. So let's say, I'm just going to move on. You know what undo does. Okay. Cropping, that's how you crop. Boom. Simple as that. All right. Now we can finally move on to music. So, generally, for projects like this, you don't want to hear the audio from the actual footage. So to mute the audio, you can either drag this top line like this, which will lower the volume until it's muted. So now we can't hear anything. Now we can. Now we can't. So you can either do that for all the audio tracks, or just like we mentioned before, you have these separate, I guess you can call these master tracks that control everything within that line. So this is the mute option. It mutes the picture, it mutes the audio. So if you don't want to hear any of the audio from your footage, you just click that and now it'll be muted. To add to add music to your projects, you can right click and add a new audio track down here. So now we have room for more audio and it's not muted. So to insert your music, go back to the project media and let's drag and drop it down here. So now we have our song. You'll be able to hear it now. and you can trim and have it start whenever you want. And we can fade it, trim it to match our video, have it fade out if we want. And we can have our text fade out too. It looks a little bit better that way. Okay, I think those are the most important things that you should know when getting started. You have your preview window, you have your timeline down here. You got some info about your project right here. You got your project media, you can click and drag whatever you want down to the timeline. You got your video effects, shows you before and afters, you just drag and drop them. You can adjust them afterwards. You got transitions, they work the same way. You got your text over here with all these animations if you want. Okay, so let's say this is your masterpiece. This is what you want to show the this is what you want to show the world. It's all done. It's exactly how you want it to be. To render your video, which means, I guess, what does rendering mean? It pretty much means taking everything that you edited and putting it into a single video to post and whatnot. So to do that, click and drag to highlight everything that you want to export. So we'll click and drag from the beginning to the end right here. Once you have that highlighted, you will go up here to your render as icon. Thank you for sticking with me for this tutorial. I know it's been like 15 minutes, but I'm trying my best to explain the most important things. So we'll probably start by titling, giving our video a title. So we'll say my first video. And then you have all these flipping options down here. You're like, what do I choose? What am I supposed to choose here? In my opinion, MP4 is the best, most universal output format. So I would click this one that says Sony AVC, MVZ, MB4, blah, blah, blah. Click this little arrow. And then click this one, and then make sure you click this next. What you have to do now is match these with your video. So my video is playing at this frame rate, so we need to make sure the frame rate matches. Your video might be 29, blah, 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 or 24. Just make sure it matches. So now mine matches. And then make sure if you filmed at 1920 by 1080, make sure this says 1920 by 1080. Keep that at high, blah, blah, blah. That's good. Keep that the same. Audio, same. For this one, you can just do best. Okay, so now our options match our video options. Click OK, and an equals sign should pop up if you did everything correctly. If there is no equal sign, go back to customize and make sure everything matches accordingly to your project. So now that we have this one selected, our MP4 output option with an equal sign, and our video title is there, make sure this box is checked, render loop region only. That means it'll render only what you highlighted within this loop region. So now the last step is to click render. There we go. It'll give you kind of a approximate time left. And generally, it should only take about as long as the length of your video. Once you start applying more effects to your project, the render time will increase and take longer and longer. So if I have like 100 effects on this project, for some reason, it might take maybe like 10 minutes to render. But in this case, it'll take about a minute and a half. And I'll just fast forward until this is over. Okay, it just finished rendering. Now what we can do is preview what you created. So go to open folder, and it should show where your video is located. Double click. Let's check it out. Yay, we did it. Great job. Okay, so that's how you edit videos. For the most part, there's so many things you can learn on your own just by experimenting, playing with all the different effects, see what's in there. There's so many to play with. There's stuff over here. There's audio effects. There's just so much I can't teach you within whatever time we spend on this project. But yeah, that's how you do it. I hope you create some cool videos, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and ask away, because I've been using this software for about 6 years now, and I know pretty much everything there is about everything that you see within this software. Thanks for watching. Good luck. Bye.